I sacrificed my son's future to support my brilliant daughter. Now he hates me, and she ruined her life. If you came for her, you better get lost. That was the first thing my son said to me after 5 years without seeing each other. He spat at me as if my voice disgusted him, and before I could say anything else, he slammed the door in my face. I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, in front of a house I hadn't even helped build, wondering at what point I lost him, or worse, if I ever truly had him. I have 2 children, twins, Camila and Daniel. They were born a minute apart on a cold, chaotic dawn. For years, I strived to treat them as if they were one and the same, with the same love, the same gifts, the same words before sleep. At first, it worked. They shared toys, birthdays, punishments. They were 2 pieces of the same puzzle. But that changed when Camila turned 8. That year, her teacher called us to the school because she had solved an algebra problem that not even high school students could understand. I remember leaving that meeting, one of the professors telling us, "That girl is going to change the world." I felt pride, a rush of ecstasy, and also fear. Fear of not being up to the task of what Camila needed. From that moment on, everything revolved around her. Physics books, logic workshops, school Olympiads, special classes, scholarships that only covered a part. And there I was, juggling to cover the other half because she had to shine. Because if I didn't push her, who would? Daniel didn't seem bothered at first. He was a quiet, tender child. He loved dinosaurs, drew dragons, laughed watching cartoons. I would hug him, tell him he was smart in his own way, but I didn't know how to push him. I didn't know what to do with a normal child. So, I took him to the same workshops as Camila. I thought, maybe he hasn't discovered it yet. Maybe he just needs to see his sister, and he'll catch that spark. But every time I took him, he'd come out subdued. He told me he hated those places, that he felt stupid, that he didn't understand anything. I would reply that it was because he didn't try hard enough, that if he tried as hard as Camila, he would succeed, too. And so, without noticing, I began to change, to correct his mistakes more, to celebrate his achievements less, to say no to him with an ease that still pains me today. One birthday, Camila asked for a telescope. Daniel asked for nothing. I gave him clothes. I don't even remember if I asked him what he wanted. I just thought they would be useful. There was one particular time I can't erase. We were in the kitchen. Daniel was 12. He asked me for a video game, and I told him I couldn't, that we had spent a lot on Camila's trip to the science fair. He looked at me seriously and asked, if I were like her, would you buy me things, too? And I, stupidly blind, replied, if you were like her, I wouldn't have to tell you to study all day. I saw something break in his expression. It was the first time he didn't shout at me. He just lowered his head, went to his room, and closed the door with a silence that hurt more than any reproach. I didn't do it out of malice, but I did it. And without realizing it, I stopped seeing them as equals. That word weighed more heavily on me with each passing year because they weren't equal. Not in how they thought, nor in how they learned, nor, I dare say now, in how much I believed they could become. Camila absorbed knowledge as if her brain were a magnet. At 13, she was already discussing relativity with professors, building 3D models, winning mentions in contests where most participants were older than her. Each of her achievements was a postcard I collected with pride. Daniel drew badly, if I'm honest, but with passion. He made maps of imaginary worlds, wrote stories of monsters with feelings in castles that collapsed due to betrayal. He never got bad grades, but he never stood out either. He was acceptable, compliant. I really tried to push him toward something more. I enrolled him in the same summer courses as his sister, hoping that being together would inspire him. He accepted without protest, but his face said it all. Frustration, annoyance, absolute disinterest. One afternoon, leaving a recreational math workshop, he sat on the curb, looked at me, and said, "Mom, please don't make me be someone I'm not anymore." That sentence pierced me. But instead of hugging him, of telling him I loved him for who he was, I replied, "It's just that you don't even know who you are, Daniel. That's why I insist." And I continued to enroll him in activities he didn't want. Bought him books he never opened. Compared him unintentionally without realizing it until he stopped sharing what he was doing with me. One day, I discovered he had a hidden folder with stories he had written. He didn't show them to me. I found them. I read them and understood nothing. I didn't understand his world. I didn't stop to try either. And so, little by little, he became invisible to me. A son who didn't cause problems, who did his own thing, who didn't shine, but didn't bother anyone either. I remember a moment that still haunts me. We were in the bookstore. Camila, excited, was looking for a book on quantum physics. Daniel brought me a graphic novel and told me he wanted to learn to draw like that. I denied him, told him we weren't going to spend money on expensive comics. I put the book back on the shelf without a second thought. That night, Daniel ate dinner in silence, and for the first time, he didn't say goodbye before going to his room. He just left. And I sat on the sofa with Camila, reading her new book together. Later, I tried to compensate. I bought him a gift card for a clothing store, told him he could choose whatever he wanted. He thanked me with a distant tone, said he didn't need clothes, but that it was fine anyway. It was fine. He always said that, as if he had no right to ask for more, as if the only thing he could do was accept. And he accepted everything in silence. Even when it came time to decide his future. Because when Camila was accepted into one of the best universities in the country, and I knew we couldn't pay tuition for both, I made a decision, one that changed our lives forever. I always knew the moment would come, the instant when we could no longer pretend everything was even, that we could give them both the same. And when it happened, it wasn't a sudden decision. It was a cold, mathematical, almost inevitable conclusion. Camila was accepted into an elite private university. One that meant not only prestige, but also real opportunities, research grants, connections with international laboratories, a direct path to the future I always imagined for her. Daniel, on the other hand, applied to a public university, a more modest, more realistic option. He never said he wanted anything else. He just did it, as always, quietly without expectations. But seeing the figures, the expenses, the reality we had on the table, I understood there was no way to afford both paths. Not with our savings, not without going into debt up to our necks. We either chose one, or we ended up dragging both down. I remember the conversation with my husband as if it were yesterday. "We'll use both their college funds to pay for Camila," I said bluntly. He asked me with a mixture of bewilderment and fury, "What about Daniel?" "Daniel is strong. He can go to a community college. He can apply for a scholarship. Why not Camila?" he insisted. "Because Camila has something Daniel doesn't have," I replied without thinking. "Camila has a future." I said it. I believed it. And now it hurts me more than any punishment. He opposed it, fought, said it was unfair, cruel, that we were condemning one to favor the other. I told him that if he wasn't willing to do what was necessary, then maybe we weren't on the same team. "If you don't support this," I told him, "we separate." He didn't answer. Just looked at me as if he no longer knew who the woman in front of him was. And so we did it. We took the fund we had saved since they were children, divided equally, 2 accounts in each of their names, and merged them into one for her. When we told Daniel, he didn't react at first, just asked, "What about me?" Trying to sound calm, I told him we'd find another way, that it was temporary, that I trusted him, that I knew he could get ahead without so much help. "Why can't you get along, then?" he asked me. And there, I didn't know what to answer. The conversation turned into shouts. Daniel cried. Said he already knew he was the less important one, that he was never blind. He just hoped he was wrong. That at least now he had the truth in his face. He called us the worst parents in the world and left. He left home with a backpack, without saying where, without asking for money, without asking for anything. He didn't come back. Days passed, then weeks. I wrote, called, left notes in his mailbox. There was never a response. Meanwhile, Camila started university. She seemed happy, radiant, a promising future blossoming. And I told myself it had been worth it, that someday Daniel would understand, that he would see I did it for the common good, that a sacrifice was necessary. But then everything started to fall apart. That's the exact word for what came next, as if everything we had built on Camila, the future, the bet, the sacrifice, had been held together with pins. At first, everything seemed perfect. The first few weeks at university were exciting. She sent me photos of the campus, her classes, new friends. She even called us one night to tell us a professor had praised her in front of the whole class. I would hang up the phone, my chest swelled with pride, thinking it was worth it. But then the silence. The calls became sporadic, then almost non-existent. She told us she was busy, that everything was fine, not to worry. Until one night, the university called us. Camila hadn't shown up for 3 key evaluations. She was about to fail the semester. I found it hard to believe. I clung to the idea that something external was affecting her. I went to look for her. I found her in a rented apartment that we paid for, messy, full of empty bottles, loud music, and people I didn't recognize. Camila greeted me with a fake smile and glossy eyes. "Mom, I'm fine. I'm just living a little, okay?" I talked to her. I pleaded. I reminded her of everything we had done for her. She told me she was fed up, that her whole life she had been the model child, that she didn't want any more pressure, that she didn't owe anyone anything. I left there trembling. I went home and told my husband everything. He wasn't surprised. He just said, "You raised her for that. Despite everything, we continued to pay her expenses, the rent, the tuition, as if at some point she would wake up, realize everything, and get back on track. But every month was the same. More absences, more parties, more excuses. And meanwhile, the money was running out. We took out loans, sold the car, refinanced the house, all to support the prodigy daughter who no longer shone. One night, while checking my social media, I saw a post. It was a photo of Daniel smiling in front of a new house, his house. I froze. The post had dozens of comments. Congratulations, applause, pride. My son, the one who was never brilliant, had achieved more than I could imagine without help, without us. I needed to know more. I asked Denise. She gave me a clue. I found out where he lived. I went to look for him. I knocked on the door, not knowing what I was going to say. When he opened it, it took me several seconds to recognize him. He was bigger, more mature. He had his father's eyes, but no longer the tenderness of before. "What are you doing here?" he said bluntly. "I just wanted to talk, see how you are after 5 years." I tried to soften it. I told him about Camila, how bad she was doing, how much we needed her. He said nothing for a while. Then he asked, "Did you come for me or for her?" I didn't know what to say. And then he exploded. It was always for her. Even when she wasn't around, everything was still about Camila. Now you want me to save her after everything you denied me. He threw me out, slammed the door in my face again. And I, still convinced I could fix it, went back with his father. Not because I believed it would be different. I went back because, deep down, I needed to cling to something, to any possibility of redemption, to a fantasy where my son, despite everything he had lived through, still had some affection for his mother. My husband didn't want to come. He said we had been humiliated enough, but I convinced him. I told him this time we would both talk, that Daniel would see us as family, that he would understand it wasn't a selfish request, but a desperate act. I prepared a bag with sweetbread, his favorite when he was a child. I also brought a thermos of coffee, as if a simple gesture could undo years of pain. I don't know why I thought sweet memories could erase bitter scars. We knocked on the door. Seconds passed like an eternity. And when he opened it, his expression was a mirror of the last time. Coldness, tiredness, that hardened glint of someone who no longer wants to know anything. "You again," Daniel said. "Please," I began. "We just want to talk," his father said. "You already talked. You already found out everything. What more do you want?" He let us in reluctantly. This time he didn't say no. This time he let us in, but not out of kindness. He did it out of curiosity, or perhaps out of weariness. We sat down. He remained standing. We talked, or at least we tried. We told him how Camila was doing, that she had stopped studying, that she went out every night, that we didn't know how to help her, that we needed financial support just for a while, that he was successful now, that he could make a difference. I spoke with my heart in my throat, his father with his knuckles white from clenching his fists. Daniel listened to us in silence. Every word seemed to weigh on him until he asked, almost whispering, "Why do you only come when you need her?" "Isn't that?" "It's because you're her brother," I said without thinking. "And she was my sister when you denied me college?" My husband tried to mediate, to say the situation had overwhelmed us, that it wasn't so simple, but Daniel wasn't listening to us anymore. He stood up abruptly, slammed the table with his open palm. "You know what? You don't change. You never will. Daniel, please, just listen." "No, you listen to me." We fell silent. "Do you want to know how I paid for my university? With 3 jobs, with loans I'm still paying off, with entire nights without sleep because I had to study and work and live alone. And still, I did it. Not because you believed in me. I did it because I got tired of waiting for you to one day do so." I was crying, but it was no use. "Now that the golden girl is broken, you come to see if the discarded son can fix her. Well, no. I'm not your mechanic. I'm not your redeemer. I'm not your tool for emotional redemption." He turned to his phone. "Get out. Or I'm calling the police. Daniel, we're just on the sidewalk. We're not in your house. We just want." "I'm calling anyway." And he did. And when the police arrived, they looked at us with pity. They kindly asked us to leave, said we hadn't committed a crime, but that we should avoid contact if the other party requested it. We went home broken. Not a word in the car. Hours later, everything exploded. Daniel published a post, not like before. This one was longer, more detailed, more brutal. He told everything with dates, with anecdotes, with screenshots. What we said, what we did, what he felt for years. "This is the story of how my parents sacrificed my future for a brilliant daughter who today can't even stand on her own feet. And still they asked me to save her." The post went viral. People I don't know started commenting, sharing, insulting me. My sisters called me crying, asking how I could do that to Daniel. Cousins, uncles, old friends, everyone sending me hate messages. What a disgusting mother. I hope you end up alone. A favorite daughter isn't worth it if you lose the rest. And Camila? Camila read the post and left. Dramatic, but well written, she said, shrugging. It's his version anyway. My husband exploded. That's enough, he shouted. I'm not going to keep supporting her. Either she leaves, or I do. I tried to calm him, but I couldn't. And you, he said, looking at me with a fury I'd never seen in him. If you keep choosing her, then go with her. I was speechless. For the first time, I didn't know who to look at. My family was falling apart again, but this time there was no going back. There wouldn't be. I knew it from the moment Daniel called the police, from the tone of his voice, from the way he didn't even say mom. That word no longer belonged to me. My husband and I returned home in silence. We said nothing in the car. We didn't even look at each other. It was as if we had come from a funeral where we ourselves had been the murderers and the victims. And in a way, we were. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room alone, phone in hand, refreshing Daniel's post over and over. It wasn't just him writing anymore. Now it was his friends, his colleagues, people congratulating him on his bravery, sharing their own stories of emotional abandonment, calling us monsters without batting an eye. Someone commented, I hope those parents die knowing they ruined someone who could have been incredible. I don't know why, but I liked it. Maybe because I felt I deserved it. The next morning, Camila came down to the kitchen as if nothing had happened, disheveled, yawning, her phone in her hand. What's for breakfast? I served her in silence. My husband didn't even look at her. When she saw our faces, she asked, what's wrong now? I told her brother had made everything public, that everyone knew, that we had lost friends, that her uncles were furious, that the whole family had turned their backs on us. She laughed. And what, you expect me to feel guilty? He was always sensitive. You let yourselves get carried away by that? My husband slammed the table. It was the first time he confronted her with that contained rage. Do you think this is a game? Do you think we're going to keep going into debt for someone who doesn't even feel guilty? Then don't, she replied, shrugging. Nobody asked you to mortgage the house. That was your decision. I said nothing because, as horrible as it sounds, I couldn't stop thinking she was right. It was me. I was the one who decided. I was the one who chose. I was the one who pushed her onto a throne she never asked for and didn't know how to hold. That day, my husband told me he was fed up, that he didn't want to keep living with her, that if I planned to defend her, I should go with her. I didn't answer, not because I wanted to stay, but because I had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. The house became a minefield. Camila went out every night without explanation. My husband barely ate, and I floated between them like a ghost without a grave. Neither mother to one nor wife to the other. Just the gray figure who had condemned them all. A few days later, Camila disappeared. No note, no message, no trace. At first, I worried. I called her acquaintances, tried to locate her phone, went to the bars she used to frequent, but nothing, just a brutal emptiness. She didn't come back, and deep down, I felt relief. A dirty, guilty, but real relief because her absence hurt less than her indifference. I locked myself in the house for weeks, seeing no one, speaking to no one, just looking at old photos, replaying birthday recordings, listening to Daniel's voice when he was still a child. Mom, look at my dragon. This one breathes real fire. And I, in the recording, answer without looking, later, Daniel, not now. Camila is about to present her experiment. I rewound that part at least 30 times, and I cried. I cried like never before because later never came. I wanted to write to him just once more. Not to ask for help. Not to talk about Camila. Just to tell him what I didn't know how to say in the years that mattered. That I loved him. That I always loved him, but that I didn't know how to show it. I wrote the message many times. Deleted it just as many. Every word sounded insufficient. Every sentence betrayed me. And deep down, I felt I had no right to touch his peace now that he had finally built it without me. One night, I looked in the mirror and said aloud, I was a bad mother. And I knew it. Yes, I was. Not for loving Camila more, but for not learning to love Daniel as he needed. For confusing intelligence with worth. For measuring my children's lives with the yardstick of success and not with that of affection. And now that I have neither, all I have left is this regret, this void, this echo of unsaid words and denied hugs. So if loving one more is a sin, then I am one. I am guilty. I am selfish. I am that mother many judge, few understand, and who will probably never receive forgiveness. And I accept it. But if you are reading this, Daniel, if for some reason you decide to read my words again, I just want you to know something. I don't want you to forgive me. I just want you to live happily. And if to achieve that you need to hate me forever, then do it. But live. Please live.